Hi guys, my name is Borrodante. I've got a sunburn. Also, I've just accidentally flooded like 5 apartments underneath mine. And I'm waiting for those people to come home from work and visit me to have a good time. Welcome back to Overpain. So yeah, I have no idea how long I'll be able to record today and what is gonna happen next in my life. But this is absolutely horrible, and I just want to paint something for a little while to not go crazy waiting for people. So let's start. And today's patient is Navius, and they are quite mysterious graphic story. Hey Dante, there are a lot of art-based channels that bring high-quality stuff and educational content. For me, however, nothing has helped me progress as quickly and organically. I always feel like a douchebag reading these on a video. I mean, thank you guys very much. This is so great that I help you in some way. Thank you. Nothing has helped me progress as quickly and organically as binge and re-binge watching your videos. Thanks, man. So I came up with this drawing because I wanted to test a few things at a time, and I was hoping that you can have a go on it on your Overpain series. I'm really curious what you can make of it. Well, let's give it a try. Okay, first I want to analyze what I'm looking at. Thing is, like, number one issue that I have with this picture is that when I'm looking at it, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Like, there's an explosion, and the guy is kind of standing. He is horribly damaged, probably by the explosion, but I can't tell for sure. His pose doesn't help much. He's like, did he just throw a grenade that exploded, or is he just like thrown away from the explosion this way and the pose is just a bit too stiff because anatomy is hard? He's probably not just dying. He seems like a guy who is immortal. Not invincible, obviously, but immortal. He has a hair of unnatural color. He's awesome. He's probably surviving this explosion. So this is basically the main context of this picture, that this is the guy who's surviving the explosion. But in that case, like, there's not enough in the pose and the expression to tell us that this is what this picture is about. Like, he's standing kind of awkwardly and his face doesn't have an expression. Again, I understand that it's probably because it's hard enough to visualize a face in the first place, not to mention actually expressing something. So we'll try to fix the pose and the expression, and of course the lighting will help a lot. Since we're going for this dramatic, kind of immortal, cool dude surviving the explosion kind of story, then we need to go dramatic and more epic. And of course, explosion is a very bright light source at a certain point, and the environment in here is quite dark, so that means that the lighting on the dude will be very high contrast. In his front, there will be a much darker lighting than in his back. And in here, we can see how there's barely any difference in brightness. Like, this is just a soft light from a little light bulb maybe, but not enough for an explosion light, you know? So we need to go a lot brighter. And yeah, certain spots on the explosion should also be much brighter. We should show this crazy contrast of light. Of course, there may be like a lot more of just smoke going on, like it depends on which moment of the explosion this is, which is also a big problem of the story in the way that the dude already doesn't have a lot of parts of his body, yet the explosion is happening right now. Like, what's up? I feel like there may be something else in the story, but I just don't get it. But I'm going for the closest that I can tell for sure, that the dude is probably getting damaged right now by the explosion, and it's probably not exactly a big deal for him. Because if it is a big deal, then this story is just about a dude dying from the explosion, and that's super sad, and why? So I think, yeah, let's go for the superpowers kind of guy. So yeah, what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna select the guy, I'm gonna cut him out of the background. Again, I don't want to repaint completely, I want to just make fixes and improve rendering. Because this is Overpain, we don't start from the beginning. So I'll try to make as much of sense as I can from what we already have. He even has blue eyebrows, he's probably like a mutant. Yeah, so now I'll probably just go ahead and cut him out and move him around, and we'll see what we can do within a 20-minute episode. So I'm going for more of a centered composition because that works best for the dramatic story in my book, so we're doing that. Like, him being kind of at the side of the picture here is kind of weird a little bit, like, why is he there? Like, it's breaking the mood, you know? So he doesn't have to stand symmetrically or anything like that, but we should at least unglue this elbow from his torso to make him, I don't know, more like this somehow. We'll see, but yeah, definitely should make him less stiff looking, because this is like an action scene. And yeah, one thing that I'm thinking about right now is that obviously Nevius said that they didn't have exactly a story, like they were just trying out. I wanted to test a few things at a time, and I was hoping that you can have a go on it. So basically, like, there's no actual story probably, but thing is that if you don't have any idea behind the character that you're painting, then it's gonna be really hard for you to paint anything. It may be not exactly obvious for an artist sometimes how important the backstory, the personality, and the motivation of what the character is actually doing right now, how important all that is for you to just visualize them. Because there are so many questions that you have to answer while you are choosing the proportions, choosing the expression, the pose. Everything has to answer this question: what's going on? What is he doing? Where is he going? And when you don't have that, your character kind of hangs in the air, like they're not doing anything. And that's very obvious. Like, it's not obvious for a generic viewer that there was no idea behind the character. It's more like it's obvious for them that the character doesn't look impressive enough. Like, why is he a character if he's not exactly doing something very obvious for us? So yeah, always answer all the questions, like, the way the hand is positioned has to answer the question of what he's doing. This is different from photography, where sometimes there's like journalism photography or some kind of diary photography where you just represent the life that's going on. And there's a lot of chaos in life, and sometimes it's just romantic as it is for whatever chaos you stumble upon. And you can make sense out of what there is already by just choosing the angle and lighting sometimes or something. But in the painting, everything exists only because you painted it, and in the position and lighting that you chose. Like, there's nothing that you didn't choose. And because of that, in a painting, you can't paint something just to, you know, just because it has to be there. You have to answer all the questions, like everything about the object. Its color, its shape, its position, its existence. Everything has to answer a question. Why is it there? Yeah. Where are all the neighbors? I'm going insane of guilt and anxiety. Anyway, let's keep going with our explosion. I wonder if I can move around the pivot point for the rotation of the selection in Paintstorm Studio. I'm gonna Google for a sec. Okay, I don't think I can find it right now. It may be not a feature yet, like it's in the planning, but right now the pivot point in the center doesn't move around. So I'm gonna have to kind of like do this. It's always cool to move the pivot point to the shoulder joint to move it around like this. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and try to bend this arm a bit less to get closer to this. But again, not completely symmetrically, although it would be kinda cool, wouldn't it? I don't know, let's see if I'll be able to pull it off. Fixing the anatomy of the muscles here a little bit, as far as I can tell. We should do an episode on the sausage anatomy soon, on the arm. That'll be cool. So yeah, right now I tried to rotate the bicep a little bit, although I may be wrong about it. Maybe not that much, it should go away, but it felt a bit off that it's just on top like this. It connects a bit lower, somewhere around here. So I'm trying to do that. Okay, I as usual make hands too small, but I think that the original hand in here was too big. But what do I know, I'm crazy about it, but it feels like it's a bit too big. Of course, it's kind of appropriate if you compare it to the face, but the face is also too big. I would make the head a bit smaller, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I'll probably do that in a moment. But right now, let's fix what we have here. Also, I understand this is not some kind of outfit he has that is torn apart. This is what's happening to the shirt at the moment. So we need to bring some dynamics to the flapping pieces of the clothing. I'll go ahead and give a try in doing so. Well, basically, again, this is probably a question of skill. It seems like it's quite hard to think through the wrinkles of the clothing for Niveus. So it's like mostly, this is the way usually people paint clothing when they don't really know how it works. I'm not far from that, by the way, but it's like mostly the shirt is just following the anatomy vaguely, and then you add some lonely wrinkles here and there to just because there should be wrinkles somewhere. Almost true, but a little bit not so much. By the way, I gotta say, there's a good work done on the lighting in general. There's not enough contrast for the explosion kind of environment. But I really love the fact that there is ambient light on the most of the character in the original, and then there's directed light from the back and it's brighter, and also I can see there was a manual mixing of colors, the way light works on the surface. So this is great. This is really going awesomely in a way that the author is trying to figure things out, and I think they're really close. One thing that I figured out last fall is that contrast thing. Like some of the light sources, especially if they're not covering a lot of the surface of the character, they may be really bright, and that's okay. They're just overexposed comparing to the main darker light. So it's a thing that if you actually do it, if you push one of the lights to be very bright, it's gonna look a lot more realistic and, you know, like real contrast. Okay, let's make the head smaller. I hope I'm correct about this. It's hard to tell when I have a head like this exactly. Yeah, there we go. He looks immediately much more like a grown-up person. Because before that, it's like maybe he's 8 years old, but he doesn't look like he's 8 years old. Just the proportion of the head is that big. And this way, he, like, immediately the rest of the body looks a lot more adult. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to make the light as close as possible to something more realistic or, you know, dramatic, impressive, because I really feel like this scene needs this. So yeah, I'm gonna start with making the front darker, and then the back will be also brighter. Adding some smoky decorations all over the place. So yeah, I fixed some lighting. I was thinking on the shading of the skin the most and the hair. It looks quite awesome now, by the way. So yeah, I decided to make his eyes glow just to emphasize the fact that he's not dying, he's like on it. So yeah, restored some of the cheek from this meaty mess, just to make sure that his expression, I made his eyes a lot more tense, and because of that, this meaty smile made him look like some evil demon. But I didn't want to push that context to him, so I decided to make sure it doesn't look like a smile. So there's that. I chose to not actually add any light source from the front. It's just that from this side, it's kind of like the reflection of the skin, like it's reflecting the flame. That's why it's more orange color here. And from this side, this is actually lit side of the face from the explosion. So it's much brighter and less orange, just because it's really bright skin. It should be whiter than orange. So, and I chose that since this middle edge falls into a place where it should be the darkest, I kind of emphasized the contrast of lighting, and it turned out really cool looking that in here there's darkness. It shows a lot better the volume, the shape of the head. It looks kind of cool. And just the basic cinematic dynamic lighting works pretty well. Oh yeah, about the back of the head. This was too inflated. The back of the head should be smaller, it should start a bit higher. And most importantly, the ear, it's okay if it's going, like, breaking through the edge of the head at this angle, as you can see. Ears are pretty much in the very back, there's not a lot of head left in the back. So at most angles, it's like sticking out. There shouldn't be any more back of the head seen behind the ear. So yeah, when I fixed that, he started to look a lot more like a human grown-up male. Yeah, and now I'm just going all over the place. Should fix this mess a little bit. And I really love the contour lighting on this arm. We should do something like that on this one as well, but it's gonna be a lot brighter. But it's really cool how the translucency of the flesh works with the reflection of the light, and it has this cool fog in here. And these two fingers, the ring finger and the pinky, they're kind of like bent forward like this, so they're not really catching all the light from the explosion because the rest of the hand is creating shadow for them. So that's why they are showing up as shadowy kind of finger silhouettes on top of the rest of the arm. And it looks so volumetric, like it looks very three-dimensional hand. So yeah, that worked well, but it only works so awesomely with all these translucencies, like really saturated, rich colors. It only works so well because I chose such a bright color for the contour light. Only thanks to that, we have an excuse to have such a rich, colorful translucency here. Otherwise, if it would be darker, if the backlight would be... if it would be like this, like barely any contrast, there's no excuse to introduce any bright colors. Like, it's mostly because this is so bright and this is almost like, well, closer to black, not really, but this huge contrast between the lit area almost white and dark area almost black. In the middle, we can kind of like push it closer to saturation and have this awesome look. So yeah, let's keep working on the thing, add some dynamics to the shirt pieces to make it look more like it's involved in the explosion, and then we'll work on the other arm, and that will be probably it. Still waiting for someone to show up from downstairs. Kind of forgot about that while I was involved in the rendering. Anyway, let's continue. Okay, so I keep on working on everything. Right now thinking about the shape of the explosion and its colors. So the basic idea is that the explosion is kind of like, well, if we simplify, which is what I'm doing here, it's kind of like consistent of several spherical parts of like explosive cloud. Only they're smaller and more complex usually, but generally let's say it's like this cartoonish kind of explosion. Thing is that closer to the center, the explosion is really bright, because that's where the reason for the explosion is happening. But as we go further away, which is the top parts of these cloud areas, they will become darker. So basically tops of these pieces of spheres, they're gonna be darker and more red and eventually turning into a black smoke. But closer to the center, in between, in the cracks between these cloudy pieces, there will be all the awesome fiery thing going on. So that's why on the side I draw silhouettes of the explosion with dark color, but in between them there's showing up the brightly lit, like rays maybe even, but that would be too cartoonish. So basically, top silhouettes, like the sharp silhouettes of the explosion on the sides, will be dark, and then it will become brighter and brighter closer to the center like this. And that's how you shade it, showing that in the center it's bright, and as it's going further away it's getting darker. Okay, I think this forearm is a bit too long. It was even longer, but I didn't fix it enough. Okay, I think I'm done. So from this to this. A lot of changes, mostly in the lighting, some anatomy, but of course what's really helping out a lot is that there's a lot of blending going on of all the details. So even though I'm really fast with overpainting this, it still doesn't look stupid because anywhere where I didn't work through the details well enough, it's just blended away. It's like, I don't know the exact shape of this bit of clothing, but it looks like it's okay that we don't know it, because it's blended away. So when I paint, I just relax the brush and it's just blending the details away like this. And it brings a lot better kind of a message about the parts of a painting that are not worked through very well. You have to blend all the edges of all the objects together, so they wouldn't look like they're trying to be well defined. So that's the way I basically went away with everything here. I'm just, even like, I'm taking the old details of meat and I just blend them together and just work with blurry spots, just thinking on some light and the way the thing looks in general. And it immediately becomes a lot more artistic because it's all working together, blending one thing into another, and it looks artistic. So again, that's something that I talked about in the detailing and blending tutorial. So check it out if you haven't seen it yet. I'm really happy that in Paintstorm Studio there's so much blending and it's like so easy to work with. You can set it up any way you want. So yeah, this is it. Thank you, Nevius, for your submission. This was a very interesting piece to work on. I had no idea that I would be able to pull off something like the fact that it's really like undefined what's going on. It was really an obstacle, so I decided to address that first and then see what kind of rendering we can come up with. And fixing some anatomy as much as I can tell. Sorry if it's not very good in the end anyway, but I think it's looking pretty good. I kinda like it. So yeah, thank you guys for your submissions. It's really awesome to work with, especially lately. I really enjoy overpaint. I guess just because my style kinda changed a bit, and this rule of working on one piece per episode is just the right pace. I don't know, it's really interesting to do this. So yeah, feel free to submit more if you're already my patron or not. I still have a few submissions waiting, so there will be more episodes soon as well. So yeah, I don't know, it's really cool. I also decided to make the scale of this texture bigger. You see these fibers of the canvas are pretty big, as if this canvas is not huge, but kind of like we can see the texture well enough. That kind of allows me to work in a bit of a bigger scale, not having to go with small details. But yeah, this was really awesome and calming me down, waiting for trouble. So yeah, no one showed up yet, but I'm gonna have to end this episode already. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess you did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe, tell a friend. Fall asleep in the sun for several hours. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye! Man, I think I love this result much more than I should. It's not mine.